Hi guys! So today I am going to be showing you how to make some faux paper for the faux paper swap that we're going to be doing. It's pretty easy. You don't need a lot to make this. I wanted to show you a couple of the pages that I did. This is just tea-dyed paper, and then I added some things to give it some texture and to make it kind of look like handmade paper. And then there's this one here. Did this one yesterday, and I have some bleeding on there, and I'm trying to figure out what that's from. Like right here, I think it might be from the fake flowers that I used. I used purple, but I'm seeing this right here, and I'm thinking it's from the purple flowers. I'm just going to check and make sure I'm in frame and everything. Okay, always got to check. Okay, so that's what the finished product is going to look like when you're done. So, you're going to need a couple things. You're going to need some paper, of course. I am going to use some avocado dyed paper for this one. You can use tea stained, like these. These were tea stained. Yeah, look at that. I'm thinking that's from the flowers that I used. It's all blue back there, but it looks kind of cool. You can use coffee dyed, tea dyed, avocado, any other dyed paper you have. You can use a white piece of paper. I would not suggest using paper that has any sort of busy background. You don't want to take away from the focal point of what we're doing to the paper. So I would say no pattern paper. You can use colored paper if you want to, construction paper. I would just maybe suggest keeping the color of your paper light, because you know what you're adding to this, all this texture that you're adding, this is the focal point of your paper, and you don't want to lose that focal point. So the other thing that you're going to need is some coffee grounds or tea grounds. So I have some tea grounds here, some tea from some tea that I brewed, just regular tea. This is turmeric tea, and I really like the orange and the yellow and everything in that one, and that's what I used on this paper here, and you can kind of see it scattered throughout. And then this is chamomile. Like I said, if you don't have tea, you can use coffee. The other thing that I'm going to be using is I'm going to be using some spices. I've got some parsley here that I'm going to add to this one. I'm anxious to see how that works out. And then I've got some rosemary. These will come in really handy if you don't have any dried flowers. I did use I used dried flowers on this one. I did not use dried flowers on this one. You can use dried flowers if you have them. Leaves. I used some leaves on both of these pages here, but I thought instead of using the leaves, I want to try the parsley and see how that goes. Sorry, I'm shaking the table. Try not to shake the table. If you don't have any dried flowers, that's okay. You can use paper flowers, you can use artificial flowers that you get from the dollar store, artificial leaves, things like that. This is, just took some paper roses, because I have a ton of them, and I just cut them up. And then we're just going to be sprinkling that on to there. And to add some extra texture, I've got some burlap here. I pulled the strings apart, and I frayed it because I like the effect I get when I use the burlap. I've also used some string that I cut up here into little tiny pieces. The colors, whatever colors you want to use, that's fine. Mine just happen to be light colors. You can use different colors of thread. Embroidery floss would be good for this because you can pull it apart and pull it into strands. don't choose something that's too bulky. You don't want it to be too bulky. You want this to try to lay as flat as possible. If you want and you have a good stash of dried flowers, you can, I don't have a really big stash, but I have a few here. So if you wanted to, if you have a big stash of dried flowers and leaves, you can go ahead and put them on there. Leave them whole. Don't cut them up into little pieces. A couple years ago, I made some faux paper before I actually saw this technique, and I did it on some watercolor paper, and I made a collage out of some dried leaves and flowers, and covered it with glue and tissue paper, and I don't have it here anymore because I used it in a project that I gave away in a swap. Pam in our group actually has that paper that I made. So yeah, this technique's been around for a while. It's really easy. The other thing that you're going to need for this one is a napkin, and you're going to want to pull the napkin apart because you're going to be using the white part of the napkin. Preferably, this is a dollar store napkin, so it only has one white backing to it. Let me grab one. It doesn't. Well, anyways, if you've messed with napkins, you're going to know that they all have a white backing to them. The better quality ones have 3 layers to them, and you can either use that first layer or you can use the second layer. The second layer is going to have just a slight outline from the image of the napkin onto that white layer, and it gives just a little bit more color to your faux paper. This one's kind of hard to see. I used some napkin that had butterflies on it and a little bit of foliage, so I can kind of see a butterfly here. I hope I'm in frame. There's one right there. This one that I did yesterday, it was pink flowers, so you can see some pink right in here. I don't know. Now that my flowers bled, it's really kind of hard to see. But if you don't have that, that's okay. You don't need that part. You can also stamp on your paper before you go and lay and apply the glue and lay everything down. Just make sure that you're using a permanent ink. You want to use like StazOn or archival ink. There's another one out there, I think Color Stay or Colorbox is a permanent ink. You don't want to use something that is not a permanent ink, because when you go to put your glue and water mixture on there, it's just going to ruin your stamp, and you're just going to have big blobs, big black blobs, I should say. So if you're going to do stamping, make sure you use a permanent ink. The other thing that you're going to need, I think this is the last thing, is you're going to need some glue and water mixture, and this is just Elmer's glue with some water in it. Oh, not frame, sorry. I didn't measure, I just poured some glue in there and some water and mixed it all up. So I think that's everything. I think I've covered everything, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lay down some paper towels, and then you want to lay down, I would suggest either a wax paper or a parchment paper, because when you're done doing this, you will have glued your napkin, the napkin part, down to whatever your paper is on top of. So you're going to want something that you can either easily take off, or like if you were to use maybe say a large magazine page, you can just cut off around your paper. But I like using this because when it's dry I can just peel it off and then I can save this and I can reuse it for when I want to do it again. So I'm going to be using this avocado dyed paper, and like I said, you can use any paper you want. Just don't use something that has a background to it. If it does have a background, make sure it's a light background. So what you want to do is you just want to get your glue and water mixture, your fake Mod Podge, onto your paper, and you want to really get a lot on there because we're going to be adding things and then we're going to be laying down that napkin, and you don't want your glue to start to dry. And I probably should have used a different brush because the bristles are coming off, but that's okay because it's going to add to what I'm trying to achieve here. So you're just going to put all this on. Make sure you get around all the edges. And make sure you get it covered really well. Oops. Okay. If for some reason you don't have a larger napkin, and let's say you've only got the small square ones, you can go ahead and take the backing off of those napkins, and you can still use it. You can, because it's not going to fit this page here, so you can still use it. You just put some over here, and when we go to glue it down, it's all gonna blend in together, and you won't notice that you didn't have a full size piece of napkin. If you don't have napkin, use tissue paper. If you're going to use tissue paper, I would suggest that you use more than one layer because everybody knows tissue paper is very thin. So you definitely are going to want to use you're going to want to use more than just one sheet of tissue paper if you're using tissue paper. Okay, so I'm going to start off with my tea, and I'm just going to kind of sprinkle it around. I don't want this one to be as dark as the others, so then that's going to be good for that. And then I'm going to use my ginger. I hope I said it was ginger in the beginning. I did have some chamomile, but... And the ginger that I'm using is not brewed. It doesn't have to be brewed. It can be just straight out of the bag. Okay, I think I like that. And then I'm going to go for my burlap pieces here. I'll put them over here. And I'm just going to try to pull them apart as much as I can and lay them as flat as I can. You want the texture, but you don't want so much that it's sticking up and that it may go through your napkin. And a little bit over here in the corner. Okay, done with that. I've got my string. I'm going to kind of do the same thing with the string. Just kind of try not to forget to get your edges. On one of the ones that I did, I forgot to get close to my edge. Okay, so now I'm going to go in with my parsley, and I'm just going to kind of scrunch it up a little bit. Oh, something stabbed me. And you just want to sprinkle just a little bit on there. Okay, and then I've got my rosemary, and I think I'm just going to kind of leave those the way they are. If for some reason when you go to lay down your napkin backing, if you find that it's thin and it's ripping, you can go ahead and put another layer of that thin white napkin down so it doesn't rip. And then I'm going to go in with my flowers. Just kind of sprinkle those on there. I'm going to take that one off. A little too bulky. And so is that one. I didn't cut these up very good. Not as good as the ones I did yesterday. That's okay. Okay, I think I'm done. A little bit more. I got a lot in that corner. Get that off. Oh, and I forgot. I saved my tea bag after I brewed the tea, and I just pulled off little tiny pieces. I am going to also post some other videos of techniques that other people have used. And in their videos, they kind of used bigger pieces of tea bag, but I kind of like these smaller pieces. You can also use cheesecloth, anything that can give it some texture, but that is not going to make it too bulky. Let's see, put some over here. If I can get it off my fingers. Oh, it's stuck together. Look at that. I should have just tore it as I went instead of pre-tearing it. I think I would have had a little bit better control of where it's going. But that's okay. We live and learn, for sure. Okay. Put some more up there. It's just way too many flowers right there. I'm actually going to add some coffee right there. You can always go back and add if you think you're... I got to pile up a string over here. Get that off. Okay, so now we are ready to add our napkin. Make sure all this is down. Okay, what I did with my napkin is I went ahead and I kind of cut it down a little bit because I have a tiny space that I'm working with here. So I kind of just wanted a flawless what? Lay down? I don't even know what I'm saying. Doesn't make any sense. Oh, videos are so much fun. You can tell that nothing is scripted because words come out of people's mouths and they're like, where did that come from? Anyway, I cut it down because I don't have a lot of room. So when I go to cover this with the glue and get all the bubbles out, I wanted to have, I don't know what I'm trying to say, so let's just skip that part. Okay, so I'm ready to lay down my napkin. I have a little bit of pattern from that napkin, but not a lot, because like I said, it was from the dollar store. So I'm just gonna lay that, oops, I'm gonna lay that down, and then you're just gonna start, oh, I have flowers stuck to my fingers. And I'm sorry if my camera is shaky. I'm just gonna press that down on there. And you can see we've got some air bubbles, and that's okay. We're gonna get rid of those. Okay. Alright, so for this one, I'm not using that brush. I'm gonna use this brush. So we're gonna go back into our glue and water, and we're just gonna lightly start covering that. The more you just kind of tap it on, number one, your napkin is less likely to rip, and it's going to help get those air bubbles out, because once this dries, if you don't have those air bubbles out, you are going to see it for sure. And I'm just going to try to go as fast as I can, because we could be here all day and you don't want to watch me do this all day. And I'm sorry, I know my table is shaking. I can't help it. My my phone is attached to one of those camera phone holder deals, and my husband made me this bar that I can clip on to my table so I can use that. And the problem is it's attached to the table, and so anytime I do anything and move, the table shakes. So we want to put down much as we can, because we want to make sure that's nice and sealed. And the more you tap, the easier the bubbles are going to come out, instead of just brushing it on like we did when we first put it on to cover the paper. And if you have lines when you lay yours down, that's fine. That actually, I think, adds to the texture. Instead of it having just a flat piece, you're going to get those lines and you're going to get that texture that you want. So I guess what I'm saying is, try not to be too much of a perfectionist when you're laying down your napkin backing, or you're going to fail and then you're going to be disappointed. So unless there's a technique. I know when I do smaller projects and I'm decoupaging, I can do it to where I'm not going to have that issue, because I don't want the lines and I don't want the bubbles in it. But for this type of project, those lines I'm good with. And make sure again you get your edges. I think now that I am, because I those two pieces that I made, those were practice, very much practice, and I learned from some mistakes I made doing the other two. Now, I don't know if you can tell, and I don't know if you can see, but we have a rip up in the corner, which is good. I mean, it's fine, because it's very easily fixed. I'm just going to take a piece of my napkin backing, and I'm just going to lay that right there. I'm going to grab some glue, and I'm just going to cover it up. And it was like it didn't exist. And that's what I was trying to say. If you don't have a large napkin, let's say you only have those small square ones that are not going to fit an 8.5 by 11 page, that's fine. You can go ahead and take two of them and put them down on your paper, and you're not going to see that line from where the two pieces of napkin meet. Okay, I have that's sticking up a little bit, that rosemary, so I'm going to take another piece and I'm just going to lay it on over top of that, just to make sure that when it dries it's not going to poke out and fall off or whatever. And I think the next time I use those paper flowers, I was kind of in a rush when I cut those paper flowers. But you can see they're kind of bulky on here, and I don't really prefer that. I don't like it, in honesty. I would probably go in, if I had time, and use tweezers and get them all out. But I'm not going to do that now, because it's okay. So I don't know if my paper ripped here, or my napkin ripped here or not, but I'm just going to go ahead and lay another piece of napkin down on top of it. Get that bubble out. Okay, I think we're done. And here's the issue that I am having right now, because some of my pieces are larger, like this right here. The oh, sorry, excuse my dog. I think he's fighting with the cat. I put him in the bedroom, but yeah, I think he's gonna try to fight with the cat through the door. Anyway, the larger pieces of the flower, because I didn't cut them down, and because they're white or an off color, excuse me, it's throwing me off a little bit because I can't tell, is that an air bubble or what is that? And I'm finding out that it's that those pieces of excuse me, paper flower that I cut up. So that's why you want to try to make sure that what you're putting down is flat. Okay. It kind of saves you time also and stopping confusion. Okay, I think it's done. Sorry, I know I put my arm down and it shook the table. Actually, I think I might need it. Sorry, my dog is like, he and the kitten do not get along, and he's in the bedroom and she's not. And so she's probably messing with him because he likes to lay and poke his nose out underneath the door. And so she's probably messing with him, and I know that is making him mad because I can hear her over there. My other dog don't care. She's like up in the bed, all snuggled up, sleeping. She don't care about what's going on. Okay, I got another little piece. Look, I keep messing with it, and I keep yakking, and I made a hole. But it's good that I made holes so you can see that they're very easily fixed. When this dries, you're not going to be able to tell where your hole was, where you had to add an extra piece of napkin. You're not going to see it at all. Okay, I'm done. I'm going to stop messing with it. I'm just going to leave it. So you're going to need to set this aside and let it dry, or if you have a heating tool, heat gun, you can go ahead and dry it. I've noticed that with this paper, the same exact paper, that's the cat, sorry. This paper here, I dried it with my heat tool. And this paper here, I let it air dry, and man, it feels a lot more crispy than the paper that I used my heat gun on. I'm fascinated by that. I would like to know why it's different. It feels so much heavier, and this feels so much lighter and thinner. I don't know. Maybe you guys know why. I don't know. I'm not a chemist. I don't know about water interaction and all that other stuff. So anyways, you're going to want to let this dry, and then after it dries, of course, you're going to cut your excess off. And I think that's it. I think I'm done. If you have any questions, let me know. For this swap, you're going to make 8 pages for your partner, and you're only required to do one side. Because people like to, use these in their journals. They'll fold the papers in half. You can make tags out of them, embellishments out of them, that sort of thing. Or if you want to, you can do both sides. But for the swap, you are only required to do one side of it. And I just want to show you right here. This is dry. This has been a couple days, and look, there's an air bubble right there. So you can kind of see the difference around where there isn't an air bubble and where there is an air bubble. It's going to puff up and it's going to look white. So you want to make sure, that's why you want to really make sure you get those air bubbles out. And I found the best way to do that is to tap with your brush that has the glue on it. Okay, that is it. Thank you guys. Have a great day.